You've heard about oceans dying, you've seen deforested skies, but there's one part of Earth that almost never speaks. The soil beneath your feet, a living system so rich it was the bedrock of every great civilization. And then it quietly died. This is the story of the forgotten era when pollution killed the soil, when the ground stopped giving life, and the planet nearly gave up. Long before skyscrapers and smartphones, human societies flourished on dark, crumbly earth. Fertile soil alive with worms, microbes, fungi and roots. Fields stretched across continents, crops fed armies, ideas spread, empires rose. The soil supported everything, from the Sumerians to the Romans to the fertile valleys of Asia. But beneath the surface of that success, a silent crisis was brewing. It didn't roar like volcanoes, it didn't crash like meteorites. It crept forward, invisible, unstoppable. It began when humankind started treating the ground like a warehouse, dumping chemicals, clearing forests, eroding the top layer, pumping poisons in from the skies. And one day, the soil whispered, "I can't anymore." Picture standing in a field of ancient grain. The sun warms your face, the wind carries seeds and dust. Under your feet, the earth pulses with life. Tiny creatures move in the dark. Roots weave like living wires. Fungi connect trees in a vast underground web. This living skin of the earth held more life than the rainforest canopy. It filtered water. It stored carbon. It fed civilizations. But what if that skin became numb? What if beneath all that green and gold it stopped renewing? What if one day the field looked right, but the ground beneath had no life left? The disappearing worms, the fallen fungi. Meet the unseen heroes of the soil. Earthworms, fungi, microbes. They're small, they don't roar. But without them, there is no soil. Modern studies show that when soil is poisoned, with heavy metals, plastics, pesticides, these creatures' numbers plunge. When the soil loses its life engine, the entire ground system starts to collapse. One earth scientist found that on industrial farms, earthworm biomass had plunged by a dramatic 83%. Anthelin.noblogs.org. This is the beginning of the era when the soil died. 2. The fields that came to dust. Once, farmers planted seeds in soft, dark soil. Now, many plant in crusted earth. Officials report that about 40% of present cropland is seriously degraded. In one region, toxic metals rose so high in the earth that large swathes of farmland were essentially lost. When soil productivity declines, human societies feel it. Hunger rises, migration begins. Imagine a farming community watching the soil black turn grey, the crops shrink, the yields vanish. That was this forgotten era in slow motion. 3. The poison. Beneath the plough, pollution does not always strike with a hammer, it often seeps. Heavy metals, industrial waste, pesticide runoff. These enter the soil and quietly poison its ability to support life. The bricks of ancient civilizations, flour from rich fields, vineyards feeding empires, were built on soil that was alive. And for the first time, humanity stood on the brink of soil death. 4. The great soil erosion and the fires. It wasn't just poisoning. At the end of the Triassic period, research shows that soil erosion and wildfire weakened entire ecosystems. Layer after layer of earth washed away. The protective skin of the planet flayed open. In modern times, this process is much faster. Soil is being eroded at rates tens of times faster than it can be replaced. When the topsoil is gone, the ground beneath becomes vulnerable to every storm, every drought. 5. The era when soil became silent. And now we reach the climax of this collapse, an era when soil gave up. when contaminants reached deep layers where roots could no longer breathe, when the microbial network collapsed, when human habits turned a living system into dead ground. In some parts of the world, farms that once yielded abundant crops now produce barely enough to survive. And it's not just a regional disaster. Globally, the foundation of agriculture is eroding. Often when we talk about pollution, we look at smog, oil spills, plastic, but the deepest scar may be buried beneath our feet. This era shows us that when the soil dies, everything built on top of it starts to crumble. Empires fall, migrations begin, scars appear in the land. The soil doesn't shout, it whispers. And when we stop listening, the ground beneath us becomes our enemy. Humanity stands at a rare crossroads. Our ancestors built civilizations on living soil. Now, we may be the generation that sees it decay. Can we reverse it? Some efforts show promise, regenerating soil, reducing chemical inputs, restoring the life under the ground. But the clock is real. If soil dies on large scales, we don't just lose food, we lose history, stability, our future. The era when pollution killed the soil isn't just past, it's ongoing, but there's hope. Under dead crusts, life still fights. In places where farmers adopt regenerative practices, the soil is healing. The ground beneath our feet holds the blueprint of life's future, if we learn to listen. Because the tragedy of dead soil is also a story of rebirth if we act. What if the next great lost era isn't in the past, but in the soil we ignore today? In our next story on Earth's hidden frame, we'll travel to the mountain that blew its top and shook civilization, and show how one volcano erased millions of years of human progress overnight. Until then, the soil beneath you is not dead yet, but it is warning you